Today we're going to start our unit on circles. And so the first page here on my presentation is the 7th grade formula sheet that you will have available for you while you are taking the MCAs and for the rest of the school year. Everything we do will be off of this formula sheet. So we are going to practice using this formula sheet. So if you have a way to print this off at home, that would be optimal, and keep it next to you and you can make notes on it. You can see on the other side of my screen I have a calculator, but I also have the formula sheet. So we will be using that, kind of going back and forth between the two things. So you should have a calculator and the formula sheet. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the parts of a circle. Circles look very simplistic, but they are actually a very complicated geometric shape. And you are going to be responsible for knowing all the parts of a circle. So today's lesson is actually on circumference. And you can see circumference is actually the perimeter of a circle. So that's going to be the outer edge all the way around. You also have your center points. And from your center point, you have a radius. Radius is halfway across the circle. So it goes from the center point and touches the outside edge. And the diameter goes through the center point but touches both sides or edges of the circle. So diameter and radius are related in a way. Radius is half of diameter, therefore diameter is twice radius. This special piece right down here is called a chord. And a chord is just a line segment that touches the perimeter of a circle in two spots. And so actually a diameter is a chord, but it's a special kind of chord because it does run through the center of the circle. So you can refer back to this as you need to. So this is a link that I actually put in the resource folder in Schoology. I'm not going to look at it right now. We might explore that later next week, but if you do have time, you can go look at it. And it's got some great tools on there, not only for circles, but for other parts of math that we have already completed. So let's get busy with circumference. So pi is a special number in math, and it is the ratio or the proportion between every circle's diameter and its circumference. So if I took any circle's circumference and divided it by its diameter, I would get this magical number pi. And so pi, remember, is an irrational number, which means it goes on forever, never stops, never repeats itself. So therefore, circumference is 3.14 times diameter. We are actually going to use 3.14 instead of pi, just for simplicity and rounding. So there's not any kind of concern about how do I round this or where do I round it to. We're just going to cut pi off and just use 3.14. So on all of my worksheets, I have actually done that for the answer. If you use the pi key, and there is one on your calculator, you will get a different answer. It'll be a little different, not hugely different. So therefore, just for consistency, like I said, we are going to use 3.14. So let's look at circumference. We're going to calculate circumference off of a circle with a diameter and one with a radius. So remember, circumference is pi times diameter. And we are actually, like I said, just going to use 3.14. So I'm going to come down here and do 3.14 times 33 because that is my diameter. So over here on the calculator, I'm going to do 3.14 times diameter. And I'm going to get 103.62. And this doesn't have anything, but we'll put inches. Make sure you label it inches or centimeters, whatever it happens to be. So up here we have 103.62 inches. Let's call this one centimeters. So now I'm going to take pi times diameter. And again, the pi symbol is just an easier way to write it. But down here I'm going to do the 3.14 for pi times 7 times 2, because this is radius. So remember, radius only goes halfway across, but diameter goes all the way across. So if this is 7, so is this. So then all the way across, do it in purple, would be 14 centimeters. So you could do 7 times 2 times pi. You could also just jump to the times 14. So over here on my calculator, 3.14 times 14, and I'm going to end up with 43.96 centimeters. So remember always to label because we are in geometry. So let's just do a couple here. So I have a couple of circles here, some with radius, some with diameter. So we're going to do this first one that's 6 centimeters. So I'm just going to take 3.14 times 6, my calculator, 3.14 times 6, and I'm going to end up with 18.84 centimeters for my circumference. So again, we're just going to do it over here. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 8. Oops. Equals, whoops, do it again. And I'm going to get 25.12 meters. So then down here, remember, this is radius. So if radius is 5, that means diameter is 10. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 10. So 3.14 times 10. When you multiply by 10, you're really only moving the decimal. So one spot, so this is actually 31.4, and it is centimeters. So here I did a fraction on purpose. So my radius is 2.5 yards. So my 2.5, I'm going to change into 2.5, which means that my diameter is 5 yards. So I'm going to do that 3.14 times 5. So on my calculator, 3.14 times 5. 15.7, so 15.7 yards. Okay, so now we're going to work backwards. So we're going to be doing some solving equations. So I know my circumference and I'm looking for my diameter. So we're going to work backwards here. So remember, circumference is diameter times pi. So since I know circumference is pi times diameter, oops, I didn't want to do that, times diameter, that's a D. I'm just going to fill in what I know. So I know my circumference is 100.48, and pi, oh, I don't know what happened there. Got an extra decimal in there for some reason, 0.48. I know that is equal to 3.14 times diameter, so I'm just going to draw myself a line. I am going to be inversing out 3.14 because I'm trying to solve for that D. When I do that, those cancel out. And I'm going to come over to my calculator and I'm going to do 100.48 divided by 3.14. And my diameter is 32. So 32 centimeters. So now over here, we're going to do this one more time. So I have circumference is 47. So I'm going to say 47.1. I'll do it in black. 47.1 is equal to 3.14 times diameter. Solving for that diameter, divide both sides by 3.14. Cross that out. Come over here to my calculator. 47.1 divided by 3.14. And my diameter is 15 centimeters. So we're just going to be working backwards. Now we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to be calculating for radius. So it's the same process. It's just going to be one more step. So I know my circumference is 60.4, and I know that's equal to 3.14 times diameter. So I can just solve for my diameter. And once I know my diameter, I really know my radius because it's just going to be half of it. So I'm going to do this. It's going to leave me with my diameter. So I'm going to take 60.4 and I'm going to divide it by 3.14. I'm going to round to 19.2, and I'm going to leave it in my calculator, and then I'm just going to divide by 2. Because when I divide by 2, that will give me my radius. So over here, I'm just going to say divided by 2. So my radius is 9.6 inches. So let's do that one more time. I know my circumference is 135.7, and that's equal to pi times diameter. And again, once I find my diameter, I know my radius because it's just going to be half of it. So I'm going to divide that out. find my diameter. So I'm going to take 135.7. I'm going to divide it by 3.14, and I'm going to end up with 43.2, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. And that leaves me with my radius as 21.6 centimeters. This is an actual test question, and I believe it's on your homework also. So let's just take a look at it. It's giving me the diameter of a wheel and asking me how far is that wheel going to travel if it's rolled 3 times. Well, when you think about it, when you roll that tire or that wheel, what part of the wheel is touching the ground? It's actually the circumference of the circle. So I know that when I roll this, it's going to go as far as the circumference. So my circumference is going to be, it's going to be 3.14 times 12. So my calculator, 3.14 times 12. And I'm going to go, it's going to roll 37.68 feet. However, it asked for 3 times. So now I just need to make sure to follow through with the rest of the directions and just multiply by 3, so times 3. So it's actually going to roll 113.04 feet. The last one here is a composite figure. And if you look at this figure, what it really is a square with a circle that's been cut in half attached to 2 sides. So it doesn't look like I have very much information for this, but I really do. Because if I know if this is 6, so is this, this, and this, because that's a square. And actually 6 then becomes the diameter of my circle. So I know that in order to find this, I just have to calculate the circumference of a circle whose diameter is 6. So I'm going to say my circumference of that circle is pi times diameter. So on my calculator, 3.14 times 6, and my fingers keep pushing buttons that I don't mean to, it's 18.84 centimeters. So I know that part of the circle is 18.84. Now, the only other part I need to find is this. Well, this is the outside of a square, whose side lengths happen to be 6. So I'm really just going to add 12 to this. And so I'm going to end up with 30.84 centimeters for my circumference.